the cost of opportunity of not doing this is actually too big. I spoke to someone, we really wanted him on board. He was losing money every month, but he was scared about going self-employed because he was going to lose more money. But I said, yeah, but you're losing money now and it's not changing. But he was so bound into that mindset that he needed a salary.
This is Lysha Holmes and I'm your host on the Recruitment podcast, and I'm joined today by an incredibly unique entrepreneur who came from a professional rugby background. He played for the Harlequins and that career didn't quite work out. He moved across different sales industries before landing in recruitment by accident, as you do. And about 3.5 years ago, he launched a business called the Recruitment Experts, which has a very different and unique model. So you stay tuned to this. We didn't talk about this in the episode, and I promised him I would share this in a summary, that the majority of the founders that he is launching through his business are return to work mums, and they're finding it very challenging in their employed roles because they're not being given the flexibility. So shame on us all for mandating back in the office. And they're obviously able to work from anywhere. So there's a real global feel to this business. So I promised him I would add this in there. So without further ado, let's get to know James Rowe, who is the founder of the Recruitment Experts. This is Lysha Holmes and I'm your host on the Recruitment podcast, and I am so excited to welcome to our global community today a guest who lives in possibly one of the most beautiful parts of the United Kingdom. And I'm trying to think, actually, I think I've only ever had maybe one guest on in 6 seasons who was from this neck of the woods, or lived in this neck of the woods, I should say. So if you are listening down in the southwest in Devon or Cornwall, then prick your ears up, because that's where this wonderful founder is based. So this is James Rowe, and he's the MD and founder of the Recruitment Experts. Welcome to you today, James. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I am very well, and just permanently going to be jealous throughout the whole country.
Yeah, it's raining at the moment, so don't be too jealous.
I know, but it's one of the, if you're listening to this and you've never been to Devon or Cornwall, because I know you live on the border, Bude, neighbourhood UK. If you've never been, like, go on, let's do a bit of tourist board. Give me a one-liner why, if you live in the UK, you should visit the area.
Just views and people.
And the food.
The food is incredible, but just the
Food.
people are just so lovely, and like everyone's just smiles, and it's just such a nice atmosphere. And you just look, and man, I can just see fields and fields and fields. It's beautiful.
It's before we even come on to the recruitment bit. So last year, as I told you, I stayed in St Ives, and I've been going down to Cornwall and Devon for 25 years or so. And last year I went with my boyfriend, and I mean he's only ever been once in his whole life. We've been together a few years, and we did a bit of cold water dipping in the sea, which was in March, definitely. And we were just sat, with our towels on and having a cup of tea, and people just walking past chatting to us. How did you get on?
Yeah.
From? How long are you here for? Where are you staying? I just think it's the most friendly, beautiful part of the country, and it's just somewhere that if I could move anywhere, I would move down there. That's all I'm saying. So we'll move on now, because we're definitely not a tourist board for Devon and Cornwall, but we should be. Tell me about yourself and your business. Tell me about your journey.
Yeah, so I've done sales for about 10 years off of the back of being a professional rugby player, and
Who
just
did you play for?
Harlequins.
Wow, even I've heard of them.
Yeah, it was good, but unfortunately, it doesn't set you up for life skills, and so you know how to do one thing, and that's take orders very well. And I went into my sales background and I've done everything within
So hang on,
sales.
why are you not playing for the Harlequins anymore? What happened to your professional career?
So there was a bit of injury involved, and then essentially I was getting groomed to go into the main squad essentially. And what happened was they asked me to move to London. At the time, it was like a 2-hour drive, so I was driving there 3 times a week. I was international, so I was playing for Scotland team as well. So I'm Scottish, and so I was driving up to Scotland every week, and it was just a bit of a mess. And I'd played since I was about 12, and I kind of fell out of love with it, and I just wanted to enjoy myself. And so
It was your choice to move away from it. It wasn't.
yeah, I wasn't forced out. I mean, I did have
Okay.
a couple of niggling injuries that were starting, like I've broken pretty much most bones in my body,
Oh,
which
that's
is
terrible.
it's really normal. But like I've just started playing again, and it turns out my body is not equipped
Oh
to play.
dear.
So yeah, it's a bit of a funny thing, but yeah, done that for quite a while, and then went into sales. I've done finance sales, cold calling jobs, call centers, cars, and then I went into a state agency
Yeah.
and worked for a local estate agent in the area. Really loved my time, but I bounced into a lot of jobs, kept bouncing in and out of
Right.
jobs, and I was always the top salesperson, so it wasn't a performance issue. It was that I got good at it and then got a bit bored
Okay.
and kind of started looking for the next thrill, the next kick. And went and found, and it was progressively better roles as I went on, and it really went well. But I lost my job, and this time I got fired for. There's a whole story behind that, but I got fired, and I
Want
went
to
to
know? We want to know. Give us a quickie.
let's say it involved a really heavy night out and a full day
Okay.
evaluations the next day, and it ended up with the managing director of that business walking into our house. It was it was bad. I was going through let's say a tough patch mentally, and yeah, wasn't great, and I was kind of a bit down. So I looked for a new job. It was really important to me, and that we needed to get something sorted. So I went for a recruiter. That recruiter got me a job
Yeah.
and I loved it. Fantastic. And then about 2 weeks later, I remember this distinct thing happening, which was one of the guys went out and went to go get some hand sanitizer and said, "There is none in any of the shops." And I
Wow.
went, "What?" And he went, "There's none." And then a day later, COVID, lockdown. Unfortunately, I was first in. They let go of me at the time. And the estate agent come to me. So the recruiter came to me and said, "Look, you've lost your job. What can I do?" And he was trying to scramble to get something together. It was too late. He said, "Look, I really like you. I think you might be good for recruitment." He said, "You would be my first official hire, but I'm willing to kind of have a
Wow.
go." And he slid a piece of paper in front of me, and it was a self-employed role, so I was earning 50%. I'd never been self-employed. I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But he slid a piece of paper in front of me and said, "This was our biggest ever placement, and it was like a 20 grand fee." And he said, "You could have made 50% of that."
Wow.
And at that time in my life, I hadn't seen that kind of money ever. And so the cost of not doing it was so big, and I knew that I could do sales from my background. So I jumped into it. I worked my way up, ended up running a really decent team, really successful business. And then some changes happened in the business that I wasn't particularly happy with as an overall. And I got offered an opportunity, and I took it, which was I had a chance to exit the business really cleanly, and start up my own thing. And yeah, the recruitment experts was born in end of 2022.
Wow. So you've just celebrated 3 years. I love that story. Just a couple of things. First and foremost, I think thank you for sharing how you got sacked. I think there's plenty of people listening in the recruitment space who've had to exit people who've had a little bit too much to drink and have made a bit of a mess of situations. So, there's maybe a life lesson there. But thank you for sharing that because I think that shows real vulnerability. But out of that came, a sequence of events, some would say serendipity, not least the recruiter who then placed you, COVID. So you were too soon before you could get furloughed. Presumably you weren't in the
Yeah, it was too quick, and I tell that story to anybody that asks because it's funny. I used to be a little bit ashamed of it because as a recruiter I bounced around a lot and it didn't look good. But actually, it's what made me who I am, and I think we hear a lot of people that are doing incredibly well, and it almost seems inachievable for some people. And sometimes to hear a nice grounded story like that to say it's possible, anyone can do it.
I
Um,
think I think first and foremost, I think I think if you are open and honest about your journey and why you've moved on, I'm a firm believer that the way the market is moving anyway, and I don't know if you listened to the podcast in March, we're recording this in March, but by the time this goes out, it'll definitely be sort of springy summer. We had Mark Francis on, and he's based over in Asia, and he was talking around this kind of whole side hustle culture, and that
Mm,
as a society now, the kind of 9 to 5 culture of having one job and working your way up and moving every 2 3 years, those days are gone.
yeah.
And especially if we think about Gen Z and we think about the future Gen Alpha who will start to become employed in the next sort of 5 10 years, I think then we need to lose this whole notion that moving jobs frequently in your youth, in your early adult years, is actually a huge life skill because it allows you to be adaptable. It allows you to plagiarize all the good bits, and it just shows that you're capable of learning and you're curious. I mean, that's just, I think about some of the most amazing entrepreneurs and founders. I don't mean in recruitment, by the way, just generally who I really admire. And they've had loads of different kinds of jobs and they stayed 6 months, 6 weeks. It doesn't matter. It's what you then do and how you bounce back from it, right?
Yeah, it's what you take from it as well. Is, if everything that you do, you take a few life lessons with you, and you're trying to find your calling, you're trying to find your thing. And I actually attest me being good at recruitment. If you were to look at me at school compared to now, I was shy. I didn't want to talk to anybody. Like I had loads of different
Wow.
people, and so for me, it was the collective experience. I worked in hospitality since a young age. I had to learn how to speak to people. Then I learned how to sell. And so it's a build of things that allows you to do it. So for anyone who is in their early teens or late teens and 20s, just do a little bit of everything. Find out what you love. And then you can, specialize, then you can niche down, then you can find out what is the thing,
What you
that
want
makes
to
you tick.
do. I think there's, certainly with the cost of living and, how expensive everything is in terms of getting on the property ladder, I think there's probably a lot of people listening, and we know this from messages we get. We get kind of two cohorts of people that actually take time to message me as the host. Founders, fantastic. And new people into the recruitment industry trying to learn. This is a brilliant platform and resource because it's evergreen, and they can go
Yeah.
and choose whichever guest that they think they want to listen to. And it's about, if I was that age and you're trying to save up to buy something, the reality is until you're really making money in recruitment, you might be having a side hustle. Maybe you are working in a bar at night time. Maybe you have got a weekend job. And I think you should be shouting about that. I think that should be something that we need to be mindful not to create toxic positivity around working too hard here. We're not talking about burnout, but just hospitality, I think should be a mandatory part of being a young adult because
Yeah.
my own daughters did it. And my eldest daughter's actually autistic, so she's now she's in a managerial role in hospitality as her permanent role. And you see her and she's just, this butterfly that's moving around the restaurant and customers love her and she's so confident. Deep down, she's still the same anxious person.
Yeah.
Just it gives you a work ethic. It gives you, like you say, the confidence to talk to strangers. You have to probably deal with quite, my younger daughter also worked in hospitality, and she told me she'd come home and tell me horrible stories about toilets and people that miss
Yeah.
toilets, and
Yeah. And I
that's
think also it
I love that.
teaches you how you would want to be treated as well. I always tip, I'm very polite, and it's because I understand that other side of that equation. And that doesn't just carry through to, eating at a restaurant, it carries through life skills. And, it's really important that, yeah, I think maybe we should make it mandatory. Even if you're a pot washer, it'll teach you something.
Oh my God. Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely. But I love the fact that this is almost kind of like full circle before we move on to the business that you've launched, in that you said very flippantly, and I wasn't going to agree or disagree with you, that you didn't think that playing rugby gave you life skills that were necessarily transferable. But I would disagree, and I would counter that playing any kind of sport, particularly a contact sport that's team based, you surely have to understand around dynamics of people and
yeah, and it gives you mindset. Mindset, I think when I've watched a lot of people coming in and out of businesses that have crumbled because they just couldn't hack either the pressure, or it was the
yeah.
uncertainty, or it was whatever it might be. And obviously some of that can be relieved, but as we know, recruitment industry isn't exactly renowned for mental health and things like that, at least at the moment. And so I think for a lot of people, it does come down to mindset. It didn't teach me how to cook or clean. It didn't teach me how to pay a bill. Didn't teach me how to drive. And so a lot of these things, and it was never really a problem. Everything was done around me.
Right, I see.
However,
Now I see what you mean.
the it shaped a personality, I think, and a confidence as well. Because when you've sat there with a massive stadium of people watching what you do, and if you fall over, you're going to look real daft. You and it's happened. But everything else seems a little bit easier, and it's a bit like when you do cold calling and then you go on and move on to warm leads. Everything just feels easy, and so I'm a big believer of challenge yourself and make things really difficult at the start because everything after that will feel so.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so right. And the context of what you've just said there, like if you're going to really fuck up in front of tens of thousands of people as a sports player, you can't hide anywhere. If you do
Yeah.
a bad cold call or you do a bad close on a candidate, the only person, well, there's three stakeholders that know: the candidate, the client, and your boss. But
Yeah.
then you move on from it. And I love that. And I think that's a real, that's a very good reflective way to look at any kind of learn, that you've got to move forward from it and it can never be as painful as it was, as long as you are learning from it. And I think that mindset.
And that, yeah,
So
that's the big thing.
definitely. So the end of 2022, Recruitment Experts was born. So what did you have a plan?
Yes, I did. To a degree, there was a lot of working out who we were in the market and where we wanted to sit and where the boundaries of the recruitment experts was. But I knew I wanted to run a self-employed model.
Okay.
I knew I wanted to pay and have one of the best kind of offerings out in the market. And I knew that we wanted to start with estate agency as a sector because that's what I had my knowledge base in. And
Yeah.
so they were the kind of three sticking points. And I would say to anybody who's looking to launch a business is if you can get those three down, the rest will just happen around you. And it's some things you'll have to focus on. But mostly it's just a case of knowing what you're going to be going for. Do you have any ins in that market, and realistically, where do you want the boundaries of your business to be? I had a very high expectations of where I want the business to go now, but that didn't come at the start. I was just
Oh.
treading water, trying to stay above it.
Well,
But it's a,
we will come back to that then, because I think that's really important, because I think that resonates very well with the guest I've just had on last week, Lisa Kit, who talked about launching her business and she had no plan. She was very brazen and bold to say, I had no plan, I just went for it. So just going back to the model of, so you have, rather than having employed recruiters working for you and sort of having that typical, I would say that's probably the
yeah.
most typical model there is. Why have you decided to go down the self-employed model? So are they franchises effectively or not?
No, so they're not a franchise. So if you think of maybe more of the American style model, or maybe even the American real estate model out there.
Yeah.
So the we our aim is that we want to sit, if you're employed is here and go it on your own is here, we sit
Yeah.
about there. So
Okay.
we're just off center, and it's your business and you run it how you see fit, but we provide you with the framework to be able to do it. So
Yeah.
we pay our recruiters 70% of everything they earn.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so it's, as far as I'm aware, at least, it's one of the highest percentages in the industry if you're not a franchise. We don't charge a franchise fee, and we provide you with the tools, the system, and the training and support. I think that's the tools and the systems are great, and they're really important to get right. And there's a money saving part of that, which is great because it's very cost effective for anyone who wants to launch a business.
Yeah.
But it's the support network and like-minded people that actually draws most people in. Whether that's a business owner that's been running their own business and feels isolated and lonely, or whether that's someone who's been doing this 10 years and they know how to do recruitment but maybe they don't know how business works.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
the reason I wanted to do that was because I saw the cost of living going up. I'd already done a self-employed model, and I knew that we could, if we get the offering right, I think that recruitment will start leaning more towards a self-employed model to some respect, because I think if the cost of living's going up, people want more flexibility. It seems like a really good answer, and I'd love to say that I had some magical ball and predicted this. I didn't. It's just what I knew, and I knew that it would it would work for me. What I was looking for, and when I went to go launch the business, is I said, right, I know these three things. How do I get a contract? How do I need DocuSign? How does this work? Why does everything cost so much?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat there going, if I've got these questions, there must be so many people and that have these questions. And so we wanted to revise a model that was made by a recruiter for recruiters.
Yep.
And I mean that very literally. I know a lot of people say that, but this is horrendously true. But more importantly, something that was transparent and open. Everything that I do in the business, I tell the guys if they want to see my P&L tomorrow, I'll show it to them. I don't mind.
Yep.
And we're really open about it because it's a partnership.
Mm.
And if someone was going to join me today, I say this isn't an interview. This is a decision-making process between us
Yep.
two.
Yep.
And if it's right for you and it's right for us, then we're a partner. And if it's not right for either party, then we'll talk about why. If we can't get around it, then it is what it is. Um, so it was really important for me to bring on really high quality people, and it's really important for me to make sure that the people that we were getting were really passionate about having their own time back, about running their own diary, and self motivated. So.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that it's a different kind of breed of person who backs themselves to the point where they can, safely hold on to 70% of everything that they build. But equally, presumably, they're going to be running a true 360 model, aren't they? When it
To a
comes
degree, it depends on the industries. I mean,
to.
we've our more bulky markets now. So FS especially, and a state agency, as they're building, we give them a roster of roles, and we've got corporate clients that we give them, and so they'll actually walk into roles, which is incredible. And then but if you're starting a new industry, and I'm sure we'll probably
Yeah.
come on to this, but as you start a new industry, there's not really much to go at. But again, I dive my hand in. We'll help them with BD development and stuff like that. So we have a central team that helps them with a lot of stuff. So although they will do a majority of themselves, and I usually like to say it's a 70-30 split again, which is 70% of your clients you'll produce. We produce around 30% of them for you, though.
Like a legacy relationship. So you mentioned boundaries early on. So how do you ensure that, because each individual market is going to have its own market flow, it's going to have its own nuances.
Mm.
Do you have one set of boundaries per each founder, or do you tend to have it sort of generally as this is what we expect as the recruitment experts? Like, how do you make sure it's scalable?
Yeah, so I think it starts with the person. So if we were starting a new industry tomorrow, it has to be the right person, and then we form that industry around that person.
Yeah.
And because how we run our property market is completely different to how we run our financial services market because of how clients are distributed. You might sign a client up in the north, and they might have clients all the way down in the south, and so ownership of clients and
Yeah.
all of these kind of different
Yeah.
mixes. And then, so we're going through this process at the moment. So we'll help them map out what their first kind of 3 to 6 months look like. We produce them a personalized business plan that they walk away with, that they've got action points with, and then I'll work with them, on weekly to make sure that everything's going in the right direction. So it's essentially a launch of a business, and I'm a coach, and we form the boundaries of that within it. And some of it is unknowables. So, how many people can we have in this industry? We can't know that. So we have to play it by ear. But then there's things that we can form really, really quickly, the early client base, how we want to run that. And then what we do is we take 1 or 2 people that are doing really well, we put them into the industry, and then we stamp on the gas and we'll actually recruit into that industry for them. So financial services went from 1 to 7 people within 3 weeks.
And are they all self-employed then, or you have the person? Right. Okay.
So
Interesting.
we have we call it a HOD, so it's a head of department. They essentially mimic so once the department's up and running, they
Yeah.
become a HOD, and their job is to essentially do what I do. They'll coach the people underneath them, they'll help them with roles, help them with questions, but the people underneath are very much independent. They choose their fees, they choose their clients, but they work collaboratively within their industry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a nice mix where you've got someone at all times to speak to. Because, for example, Patrice is our HOD for financial services. At any time, they can pick up the phone and say, I don't understand this. How does this work? I need help with this. Can you help me with this? But if they don't want to speak to her, they don't have to. And so, she might not hear from some of them for 3 weeks, for example. So,
I mean, the accountability is that do we need to earn money or don't you need to earn money? That's the reality. And so from that perspective, that leads very nicely on to my next question, which is, how do you know whether you've got what it takes to work in this model? Like, and I would say that anyone that's thinking of launching on their own, you almost need to be thinking, I'm self-employed and I'm going to have to generate all of this. Like, how do you know that you've got the right mindset?
you don't. I think that there is some key indicators that you can have, but it's a bit like jumping into the deep end. You kind of don't know until you do it. But you need, like, and I say this to most people, the cost of opportunity of not doing this is actually too big. Um, I spoke to someone and he was working in the industry. We really wanted him on board. He was really good, and he said, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm too nervous." And I said, "Okay, why are you nervous?" He said, "Well, because blah blah blah." And we got to the bottom of it, and he was losing money every month, but he was scared about going self-employed because he was going to lose more money. But I said, "Yeah, but you're losing money now, and it's not changing. So but he was so bound into that mindset that he needed a salary,
Right.
uh, and I knew that he wasn't right at that point. And so, if you're willing to take the jump, that is half of it because you're willing to back yourself.
Mm.
If you understand the industry that you're going in, if your mindset is good, and I tell the guys when they first start, expect nothing out of your first 1,000 calls, and if you do, happy days, because when you walk in with less expectations, you all of a sudden free up and you start talking normally, and we call it commission breath, and that commission breath starts disappearing, and it
Hilarious.
stop wanting something tomorrow and start working to something in 3 to 6 months. And
Yeah.
if you have that mindset, things will drop in anyway and build something long term. And so when people take that pressure off, but I think mindset is the biggest one, willing to back yourself and some form of industry knowledge, whether that's, and you don't necessarily even need recruitment experience. We've all started in an
Yeah,
industry.
I would say that that was going to be my next point. That I think rather than, I mean, I think recruitment prowess is really important in order to have a greater impact quicker. But your model actually almost counters what most of my guests will talk about around recruitment prowess, where it's actually the industry knowledge, because it's about who you know, isn't it? You want to be able to move.
Yeah, to it, and we can teach people the industry. We've got loads of. I mean, if you look at property, for example, it's a really niche market. There's not that many people, and actually, sometimes it's better to grow your own. And so we'll take them with recruitment experience, and we'll then nurture the estate agency
Yeah,
part and the property part. But we could also do it vice versa. And I usually look for three things in people, and that is industry experience,
yeah,
recruitment experience, and business experience. If you've
yeah.
got all three, you're the dream.
Dream.
2 out of 3 we can 100% really good, and then 1 out of the 3 we can make that work.
Yeah,
So really it comes down to willingness and drive
yeah.
at that kind of 1 out of 3 part. But if you've got 2 out of 3, you're going to be fine, and 3 out of 3 you're absolutely going to fly.
Have you actually got an exit plan for yourself with recruitment experts? Like, what's your ultimate goal?
So we will do eventually. It's not going to be for a very long time, and the simple reason why is that we our aim over the next 5 years is to scale insanely, and it's working. And so we're taking on between 3 and 5 people a month.
Wow.
And it's obviously a heavy demand, and we're looking to expand into somewhere on the region of between 5 and 10 sectors over the next 5 years. It could be more than that, could be less. It really depends on the people,
I was
but
just about to say you're going to be reactive to the people that,
you have to be.
of
You
course.
can't say I want this industry because you're and the industry that we're about to launch with tech and IT. It was just the right person,
Yeah,
and she'd
yeah,
come along and she said, "Yeah, let's do this." And so the industries can't be mapped, but what we can do is map our influence within the industry. So
yeah.
it's kind of a bit of a twofold thing there. But the main thing for me is that we're probably looking to grow to between 100 and 400 people, just depending on the sectors and the models and stuff. And what's quite nice about that is they're all kind of fairly self-contained because they're separate sectors with a HOD looking after them. So they're like mini businesses under the TRE tree.
Mm. And in terms of, I guess, code of practice, when it comes down to those boundaries that we talked about, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to share any of this, but if there was a hypothetical situation where maybe there was a lack of integrity, or people weren't operating within that, I mean, I guess is it easy to exit somebody from this model?
Yeah, we're really straightforward with our contracts as well. So obviously you got the normal stuff in there, but we have no non-compete on our contracts,
Okay.
which I think most people think I'm mad. But number one, if you're not in a business and you're not enjoying it,
Yeah.
why would we hold you here?
Okay.
And also it means that our service isn't good enough for you, or we've done something wrong, or something isn't right, and so why should we hold you? Two, you can break away at any time. We don't bind you in, and
Yeah.
so integrity is one of our kind of is a mandatory, and that comes in different senses. Everyone has a different level or a different experience of integrity from a certain degree, but it's making sure they do the right thing, and that doesn't just apply. It's a really hard thing to say, but it doesn't just apply through your clients and candidates. It applies through the people you interact with daily, whether that's people at the bar all the way through to your other fellow recruiters in the business. Just and that's something that I hire against. I think that it's massively important that these people understand not only the opportunity in front of them, but also that they're part of something bigger, and they need to make sure that someone that's not willing to work collaboratively is quite clearly not kind of the person that we want, and
I
that
was
kind
just
of
about
relates back in.
It's almost like this reverse psychology, the fact that you've got the non-competes in there, and the fact that integrity underpins everything from start to finish in the whole process, internally and externally. It's almost like, you've built it and they will come. It's like a very brave way to grow a business, actually.
It's a very stupid way.
It's
But
like you're empowering those people to
yeah.
do the best by you and by the best by themselves. So I imagine it's actually, from a risk point of view, yes, in theory, but like you say, you're not.
When you factor in the actual way it works in people's
Yeah,
minds, and because it's their name on the door, it's their brand. If they say something, they drop integrity, and they do something they shouldn't,
yeah,
then yes, it hurts us, but it hurts them probably more. And
yeah.
so it's,
A
how
lot
much
to
do
be
they
said
care
for
about
that.
their own?
There's a lot to be said for that, James, I have to say. Fantastic. And have you got any plans to, I don't know, launch a podcast, run a community event? Have you got anything going on exciting like that?
Yeah, we've got so much in the pipeline. It's becoming a bit overwhelming, but so we're hoping to launch a podcast at some point this year.
Right.
We've also got a social community that we want to launch for recruiters to share valuable insights with each other. We're looking to launch some form of in-person events where we bring guest speakers, and it's going to be specifically for business owners, and to make sure they're not feeling as isolated. And so that's all things within the next 12 months.
Busy times.
Yeah.
And you could have some kind of retreat on your farm as well, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, just come
Fruit
pet some
retreat.
cows. Yeah, we've
Good. You
yeah.
could. I'd be up for that. I'm so grateful to you sharing this with us. And, I think I can't remember actually in 6 seasons having somebody on who's got this model. So it's really interesting to see. And it just goes to show that there's lots of ways to skin a cat in recruitment. And I think, I applaud anybody that does things differently and does it with integrity. So really appreciate you sharing your personal journey, your professional journey, and good luck with the year ahead. Thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
Thank you for having me.